Hello, and welcome back to Heartbreaking Talks. I hope you're all doing well. It's been some time since our last conversation, but I'm excited to be here today to share some stories that might be controversial. However, I strongly believe that they will be useful for all men out there who are looking to learn something new. Let's begin. First story. This is a family conflict that recently came up. I, a 46-year-old male, used to work in the military, so I was away from home most of the time. When my son was a toddler, I accidentally discovered that he wasn't mine, he was my older brother's son. It was the most devastating time in my life. Aside from what I was dealing with, my ex-wife and I ended up divorcing, and I cut contact with my brother for years. I was done with him. Even after my ex-wife, who he married the same year of the divorce, died suddenly, my parents stopped me. My ex's death was supposed to make everything okay, as they claimed she was the one who drove a wedge between my brother and me. But I kept my distance. My nephew started reaching out to me, and we began seeing each other more often when he was a teen. He has always been told that the fight between my brother and me was about business. My parents threatened to disown me if I told my nephew that his mother was my ex and that I should just leave it alone, which I did since they said they'd pick their nephew grandson if they had to choose. My nephew tried to get me to meet my brother to talk, since my brother welcomed the idea, but I refused. Finally, I made it clear to him that he needed to stop forcing a reunion, and he respected my wishes. He's now 21 and is getting married soon. He sent an invitation, which I declined and returned right away. He called to ask why, and I said I'm no contact with his dad, so I won't come since he'll be there. My nephew refused to accept that and came over and started criticizing me, saying I was unnecessarily bitter and resentful towards his apologetic dad over some business. He could not believe how much hate and grudge I kept inside me against his dad. He said I either try to work things out with his dad or he will not be seeing me again. I felt hesitant at first, but then I told him that his dad and I don't have any usual issues and that his mother was my ex-wife, who his dad messed around with while I was in the military. My nephew denied it, saying his dad and grandparents never told him. He thought I was lying until I showed him enough proof to get him to change his tone. He left in a hurry and was enraged. Later, I found out via my parents that my nephew cancelled all my family's wedding invitations. He put the wedding on hold and disappeared after a huge argument with them and disowned his dad. My father has gotten very sick after this incident and my entire family keeps harassing me, saying I ruined everyone's life with what I did because of my hate and resentment towards my brother. They said they wanted me not to talk and now I should deal with the consequences of alienating their grandson's nephew from them. Let me tell you my thoughts. Your nephew is an adult, fully capable of making his own choices. You were pressed for an answer. Your options were to no longer have your nephew in your life, meet up with your brother, or tell him the truth. Your family threatening to disown you for telling your nephew the truth is super toxic. I can understand not telling him when he was a child and even to a certain extent as a teen, but once your nephew was an adult, he deserved to know. Not only that, but Op has been painted as the argumentative idiot in favor of the cheating brother and ex. Holy cow, how do you do that to a man who both his wife and his sibling betrayed for 20 years? He sold his tongue despite his whole family, parents included, behaving like this. Not the idiot. Your family is delusional if they thought that they could keep it a secret forever. If they had not tried to keep it a secret and your nephew had grown up knowing the truth, he might not have blown up the way he did. He blew up because he realized that his family had lied to him his entire life. You tried not to say anything, but your nephew was like a dog with a bone and he would not let up pressuring Op for an answer. Apparently, he couldn't handle this information if he cancelled his wedding and disappeared. Op, you are not the idiot, but in a way, your parents are right in that you should deal with the consequences of your actions. Reach out to your nephew and tell him that you love him and you never blamed him for what his parents did. You never told him before because you were told that you would never be allowed to see him again if you did. If you didn't explain that already, importantly, add that you will always be there for him if he ever needs you. Let's go to the next story. This weekend, my wife and our daughter went to visit her mom. I couldn't go because I couldn't get the time off work and we decided it would just be a girls' weekend for them. I'm a firefighter in a large southern city and I'm on a call and gearing up when our dispatcher calls to tell me that there is an emergency. I'm not really needed on the work call, so I get my cell phone and find a bunch of texts from my kid and a couple from a number I don't have in my phone. In the course of about 11 text messages, I learned that my daughter has gone ice skating and fallen and broken her wrist. She's in the emergency room but cannot get treatment because no one can find my wife. The number that I don't know belongs to a friend of my wife's who has gone to the emergency room to sit with my kid. She was the chaperone for the girls who had gone skating. So, I call this friend, and after a lot of hemming and hawing, she admits that my wife has gone to dinner with some random guy. Well, we always leave our location shared with the family because of my job, and sure enough, I pull up an address and Google it, and it's a hotel. This was 10 p.m. It's now almost 4 hours later, and she hasn't answered my texts, but she did finally call our kid. I have permission and insurance information, and she got a cast and a referral to see an orthopedist when she gets home. The friend took our daughter back to her grandmother's and texted me. She said, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way about him. Apparently, it's been going on every time she's gone home that I haven't gone. Meanwhile, I've worked countless hours of overtime to pay off our house, take us on nice vacations, and send our daughter to the most expensive private school in our city. I'm a fool." Okay, I don't believe you're a fool. Your wife is out there doing your family duties, working hard to make a better living. And what did she do? She's banging another man in another city while visiting her parents. Well, I guess all of the family knows now at least what kind of a slut your wife is. When she gets home, though, Op forced her to explain to your daughter where she was and what or who she was doing while her own daughter was in the emergency room. Lawyer up and send your wife back to her parents. Don't tolerate any more of her lies. Now for Op's first update, I spoke with a lawyer, as many of you suggested. During the conversation, I realized that she doesn't really have a lot of access to money that is hers. I removed her as an authorized user of my credit cards, put two-factor authentication on just about anything else that she might try to get her hands on, and pulled my credit report. I discovered that she opened a joint credit card I didn't know about. Since I'm on the account as well, I was able to log in and print out the charges. It was a basically perfect timeline of restaurants and hotels that she has paid for. Turns out she also has accounts on Tinder and Bumble, which showed up when I combed through the last few phone bills. I have a pal who is a deputy sheriff in these parts who is going to be here tonight when she gets home. I've gotten her a room in a nearby hotel for the week and paid for it up front. She can sleep there for now and figure it out on her own starting tomorrow. Daughter and I spoke, and she knows what is up and is angry at mom. So, next steps are to find someone for her to talk to. Thanks to my job, I've got great insurance, so that is one best thing to worry about. I decided I am also going to come clean to her mother once wife and daughter are on the plane back here. Taking a couple of days off to deal with this. Thanks for the advice, everyone. I'll probably yank these posts down tonight or tomorrow, so if you have any other last-minute advice, now is the time. Now for Op's final update. This will be the final update on this sad situation. First off, thanks to everyone who weighed in. It's amazing the number of fellow firefighters and Leos I've heard from who are in similar situations. I took a few days of personal time away from the job in order to deal with all of this. The soon-to-be ex-wife and our daughter returned home late Sunday, and my daughter immediately fled to her room and closed the door. My wife said something along the lines of "I guess you must be pretty mad at me," and I told her the truth. That I was numb and the anger would come later. It would be best if she was somewhere else for a while. My friend, the deputy sheriff, was there and said he would sit on the deck and be there if I needed him. I told my wife that I was recording this conversation to protect myself and my rights as a husband and father, and she said, "Fine." I suspected at this point that she really seemed to think that she was going to talk her way out of it. What I didn't tell her was that I'd spent most of the last week talking with friends, my parents, my battalion chief at work, as well as a lawyer and a fair therapist. I've got a ton of leave and a supportive bunch of co-workers, and if I need to take months off to deal with this, I can. I just said that I was disappointed in her, but mostly I was angry that our daughter got caught in the crossfire of her bad behavior, that she had put our child at risk to get laid. She didn't admit or deny, but then her tone changed, and she almost immediately started in on saying things like, "Remember the time we..." Trying to get me to remember good times. After about 3 of those mentions, I told her the truth. I couldn't trust my memories because I had no idea what she might have been doing. When that didn't work, she went into the hole, "I was lonely because you were working so much crap." I reminded her that we made a deal about how to pursue a future where we could retire early. I got so mad at this point that I pointed out to her that if she had behaved, we could have retired when she was 48 or so. But I wanted her to remember that promise because now she is going to have to work for herself. I'm not usually a vindictive person, but I like the idea of her having to work until she's 70 years old and being angry every time she gets dressed to go to a job that she hates. Side note. One of my work buddies who is also married, he and his family have vacationed with us a couple of times, made this observation. Every time we've gone somewhere, there has been a day or two where the wife has contrived an excuse to be apart from the family. So I played a hunch and said something like, "This wasn't the first time. This was just the first time you got caught." And she just hung her head and very quietly said, "Yes." So I have that admission on tape. She went to the hotel without objection. She wrote me long emails saying things like, "I'm sorry and I am not sure why I did what I did." I did not reply. Before she even got home, I had spoken with her mother and told her about the fact that she was at a hotel with another man while her daughter was in the emergency room and also about the credit card that she opened. Her mother did not say much, but I told her that if I had any inkling that she was aiding and abetting the wife's bad behavior, that I would severely limit her access to her granddaughter. That was probably a mistake on my part, but I was just so damn angry. The mother-in-law swears that she knew nothing and that she was worried sick when something happened to my wife and no one could reach her. I also told the mother-in-law that I was not going to allow my wife back into the house if I could help it and that I expected her to understand that. I've never yelled, hit, cheated, or done anything else other than the things I promised to do when we got engaged. That seemed to resonate with her. My wife's parents split up when she was in high school because her dad was a serial cheater, so maybe that registered with her mom. I sent a text to the friend who took my daughter to the emergency room. I told her I didn't particularly care if she replied. I said I appreciated her being at the emergency room with my daughter, but I also said that if she had previous knowledge of where my wife was going, then she should know that she had a huge part in destroying my family and that a true friend would never encourage shitty behavior. I haven't figured out how to get in touch with her husband yet, but I suspect based on just sort of reading between the lines that she and my wife were kind of egging each other on. Thursday morning, I got a text from my wife saying that her mother had rented her a furnished apartment pretty close to our house and that she would like to come and get some personal things on Friday when I went to work. I said that was fine. I should point out that during all of this, she only texted our daughter one time, and even in her communications with me, she never even asked about her. When she told me she got the apartment, she didn't ask if our daughter could come visit. I told her that I wasn't working on Friday, but that I would be out of the house for a couple of hours so she could get some things. I left, but I had a process server waiting across the street and when she pulled up in the driveway, he handed her divorce papers. They included a notice from my attorney that I intend to file for sole custody and that she would have visitation rights. She called my voicemail and she was almost incoherent with rage. I have never heard her so angry or, frankly, sounding so unbalanced. Also, my lawyer had a very good suggestion that I will pass along for anyone else in this position. I got a new cell phone. I don't carry the phone that has the number my wife knows. I've only given a few people the new number. My lawyer, my sister, my daughter, my boss, and a couple of good friends from work. I take a look at the old phone once a day and see if there's anything I need to deal with. I know there's a lot of other advice out there that I did not touch on, but there is no need for a paternity test because my daughter looks exactly like me. I will get an STD panel, but I don't think that's an issue either. My lawyer did get notified that my wife has hired a lawyer, but I made it clear that I am going to stay in the house and my daughter is going to stay there with me. I may have to write her a large check thanks to the vagaries of family law, but at this point, I really don't give a damn. I'd probably add a zero to the check if I could get rid of her 6 months earlier. So, question. Did your soon-to-be ex-wife really think that you would fold and want to reconcile? Come on, there was absolutely nothing to fix. She knew full well what she was doing, and she had zero intentions of stopping. She wasn't even sorry. The fact that she put having sex with other men over the well-being of her literal daughter is the worst part of all this. Listen, gentlemen, it's 2023. Getting married is just not worth it anymore. Let's use Op's situation as an example. He saves lives for a living, he's a firefighter. He takes care of his daughter, his wife, and he's never abusive. He has a blossoming career and he's not a cheater. Basically, he's a prime example of what a real man should be. And despite all of that, his wife still cheated on him, destroying her family, ruining a stable home for her daughter, and emotionally scarring her husband and sad daughter. And do you know what's going to happen? She's going to receive a huge sum of money for it. The divorce court is going to reward her for her behavior. Gentlemen, the risk is just not worth it anymore, and I highly doubt that it will change anytime soon. Ouch. Hard story. What do you think, guys? Next story. First up, a cheater whose medical bills came back to haunt her. The wife of 11 years is pregnant with another's child. To get started, I'm on mobile, so please excuse any errors. Also, this is a throwaway account. I'm also not a great storyteller, so please bear with me. My wife, 32, female, and I, 34, male, have been married for 11 years. We have 2 daughters, aged 10 and 11. This story begins as I'm online paying some minor medical bills. I noticed a bunch of appointments that I didn't know about for my wife. In a nutshell, one was her doctor saying she was 6 weeks pregnant and another was her having an abortion. I was extremely shocked, to say the least. Later that night, I asked her if she was ever going to tell me that she got pregnant. A bunch of questions from her ensue and I just follow up with, well, what about the abortion? A bunch of back and forth goes between us, mainly about how I knew, yada yada. At this point, I'm not even thinking about someone else in the picture. I had a vasectomy years ago, and I had the follow-up appointment confirming a successful procedure, though I do realize that it can reverse itself. Onward with the story. I'm trying to be supportive. I'm not upset about anything so far, except for the fact that she hid this from me. She then tells me that she was afraid to tell me about the pregnancy because she did not know if it was mine. Apparently, she has been having unprotected sex with a co-worker in the back of her car while working nights for the last 6 months. I was so blindsided by this affair. She says that she regretted it at the time of the abortion. Mind you, this was back in early November, though she says that she has continued to have sex with him, even a couple of times in February. She's a mess right now, and I really want to hold her, but I'm trying to stay strong. She made her bed, now she can lie in it. I know this is in no way my fault. Her decision, her actions, her mistakes. I'm so torn up by all this, though. It happened earlier this week. I love this woman dearly, still do, in fact, but there is no way that I can ever reconcile and forgive her actions to me. 11 years of our built-up relationship and trust just toppled in one day. I want the best for her, but I no longer want to be the one who provides that. I have already told her that I want a separation, and I have asked her to move out. I rent a home for my mother, with the stipulation that I help my grandmother out when needed. She lives with us as well. It would be awkward as hell if she stayed here once the family is told. Though even if my grandmother didn't live here, I would ask her to move out. I'm of the mindset that I'm not the one who cheated, so why should I move all my crap? So, any advice moving forward? We both have our kids' interests in our hearts, and at least at this point, everything has been pretty calm during our talks. Lots of sadness going around, but no yelling or screaming. I feel like this is going to take a long time to heal from. I'm trying not to break down as I'm typing all this down. Update. I have talked to my ex a few times about certain things, and I believe I have a better plan now. She has a very limited time to get out of the house. I have contacted a lawyer and am currently collecting information for the separation papers. I have been tested for STDs, and everything that has come back so far has been clean. I have not told my children yet. Soon, OBX wanted to say that we're just breaking up. I was like, hell no, I'm telling them that mommy had a boyfriend. They need to learn that a marriage is a serious thing. This has been rough for me so far. I feel as if I'm barely keeping myself together, especially today. I'm currently keeping a front up in front of my girls, but I still have to walk away sometimes to compose myself. I never thought that my emotions could ever fall this deep. I will find a way to pull through. I have to, for my girls and for my own sanity. I want to thank everyone thus far, people who have posted your advice, people who have sent me direct messages. Don't want to comment this. I'm tired of this kind of woman. What about you guys? Next story, brothers. Biscuit and Butters, who says I'm a 27-year-old female, made a stupid joke to my husband, 30 male, and he stormed off. How do I fix this? Hair added, I'm an Instagram snooper, so this is my first time here. I honestly never expected to post here because my husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, have a great relationship. Of course, I can't say we haven't had our occasional bumps, but it's honestly a dream come true. All the way through, our wedding was in April 2021, and we both cried like babies that day. Since then, the sailing has been smoother than soap. This afternoon, he and I came home after a little lunch outing with our newly engaged friends, Kai and Marie. It went great but was like just another outing, nothing special. Though we got some bomb pasta back at home, which I'm currently shoveling into my gob since there's too much chili for ice cream. We live in a super tiny apartment, so he showered first while I got the leftovers in the fridge and stuff. I went in after him, finished my shower, and put some lotion on my palm. Accidentally squeezed too much and dabbed some of it away. After I rubbed it on my face, I still had some of the leftover on my finger. I did exactly what any perfectly sane person would do. On my thumb, I whipped a little smiley face and some spiky hair to create Lotion Man. I came out of the bathroom giggling about it and said something along the lines of, "Hey, look, it's Lotion Man." He didn't really react, he just looked at my hand and blinked at me. I honestly was just goofing around and started making a silly voice and saying some random shit sprinkled with some inside jokes. I was blabbing for about a minute before he just up and left. I was, of course, completely oblivious as he grabbed some of his stuff and I was just smiling and asking where he was going in kind of a playful way. He has a huge truck and had just returned from a trip, so he has enough stuff to last him weeks. So, it didn't really dawn on me that he was leaving until he drove away. I honestly feel like Boo-Boo the fool for making such a stupid joke and then letting him leave just like that. I texted him a few times and he just said that he's thinking about things and that he's at his brother Tyler's place. I've been texting him non-stop, but he hasn't been responding or even reading any of it. He also sleeps really early, so I doubt I can get in contact with him anytime soon. His brother isn't responsive either, so I'm just leaving my phone on the nightstand and holding my breath. I don't think it's really dawned on me yet. I stared blankly at the door for like 10 minutes before I got off my ass and actually tried contacting him. I've been with this man for years and I'm always cracking cheesy jokes. At the same time, I'm just confused. He's never been at this point. Even in our rougher patches, the worst we've done is just take breaks from sex or just talk to one another a little less. I wasn't planning on getting into my sex life, but honestly, I'm just rambling at this point. I'm all for giving him space, but I can't say I'm not hurt. He's just leaving and the process of divorce is just so I don't even want to think about this anymore. Was making Lotion Man as big of a mistake as I think it was? Any advice on getting him back home? Thanks Reddit. Also, any cute subreddit suggestions would be appreciated. This is my first time on Reddit and I want to distract myself. I myself don't think there's much point in covering the comments on this particular part of the story, simply because we don't know why he's done this. It's obviously not going to be over the soap thing. OP says that they make jokes all the time, and why would you storm out over the soap guy anyway, unless it was something that brought up something real traumatic from his past and he couldn't handle it in that moment and just had to leave. But you know, there's something huge missing, which I'm guessing we're going to find out in the update. So, OP came back 5 days later to make their first update, which says, "Hey Reddit. Update 1. Again, I posted here earlier about how my husband left after I told him a dumb joke. I followed the advice I got and kept my distance. You all had me really pondering about how much my relationship was the butterflies and kittens I thought it was. I still firmly believe that everything was absolutely perfect before it happened, but oh well, I have my opinions. So, you guys were right about some things and wrong about some things. For those of you saying that the lotion thing had nothing to do with it, you were kind of wrong. But for the people who said something happened during the lunch outing, you were right on the money. My husband came back the other day, apologized, and said he was ready to talk to me. I obliged. I tried my best not to be all over him, but quite frankly, I miss this man so damn much. He's my husband, after all. He told me the following. I mentioned previously that we went out with our two newlywed friends, Kai, 30, male, and Marie, 29, female. We did have some quality time with all four of us, but often one or more people were missing from the table. Considering it was a fusion buffet and the food was amazing, apparently at some point, my husband and Marie grabbed some food together, or maybe before we left, since I know I was talking to Kai for a while before they appeared and we got in the car. Whatever it was, they were alone together. Marie, the fiancée, told my husband that when Kai proposed, she realized she was in love with him. My husband, though, she accepted Kai's proposal and tried to put her feelings to rest by organizing a lunch out, though apparently she was charmed or something because she asked him to run away with her or something. I don't know, but she wanted him to leave me and be with her. Now, Marie is honestly gorgeous, which I hate to say because I'm so pissed off with her. She's the typical blonde, blue-eyed, skinny pageant girl who looks like Emma Watson. I'm not. My husband gently turned her down and wished her all the best. He says he had her on his mind for a while. We were all college friends, so we know one another very well. When I showed him Lotion Man, it all essentially exploded inside him. He had a hair towel and some shitty old clothes on, and I was giggling over a stupid thing, and apparently, my immaturity ticked him off. Over however the hell Murray was, he got sudden cold feet about our relationship and left for his brother's place. He eventually came back and said he loved me all over again. I was frozen in shock and asked some questions before asking him to sleep on the couch at least for that night. He did it and it didn't really help me sleep. I can't believe it. Honestly, he was considering throwing away our relationship for a crush. The more I think about it, the less I can look him in the eye. We went to Thanksgiving lunch together with some of his family, plus some close friends, and we spent last night together. So, I think he thinks he's in the clear. I can't lie and say I'm not considering just forgiving and forgetting, though. He comes from work about 6 hours from now, and I don't know what to do next. I have off today, I'm a teacher, and so I'm considering either A. Contacting Kai and telling him about what his fiancée is up to. My husband begged me not to, as Marie was apparently making a spontaneous mistake. B. Contacting Marie and chewing her out for trying to mess up my relationship. Or C. Having a civil conversation, less tempting, but it's whatever. D. All of the above. Any advice or well wishes because I'm not in a great place right now would be appreciated. If I do end up updating, it'll probably be on my profile since I understand the subreddit has a one update policy, plus I don't want to update without a definite outlook on the future. I think I've mentioned before that legal stuff scares the crap out of me, so divorce will be tough, but it seems likely. I wish I could just forget it all. Thanks Reddit. And to me, in this, we'll cover a couple of comments on this particular update in a second, but when Op mentioned that brother lives close to Marie, I was like, oh crap, that doesn't sound good. It kind of popped in my head in that moment that maybe they met up when he said he was going to his brother's, and they had a conversation about if they want to take things further. He realized it was a mistake and then come back to you, but that would still leave me with a question of how much trust you can put into him in the future now. I think one thing is that Kai deserves to know about what his fiancée is up to, but a lopsided Ioli says I would do D, all the above, but first contact Kai to let him know, and that way she can't lie beforehand or make another story. Do you have a good relationship with your brother-in-law? If so, I would ask, but he might cover. But also ask your husband if you haven't already, then contact her and let her know the friendship is over and she crossed a major line. So sorry you're going through this. Your God says Kai absolutely deserves to know who he is about to marry, and he should be told soon. For Marie or your husband can get their story in if it hasn't happened yet. I doubt that talking to Marie will be able to bring forth anything good. It's clear that Marie doesn't care about you at all and doesn't respect you. Oh, she would have never done what she did, which means that your feelings and opinions are irrelevant to her, and no chewing out or calm talk will bear any fruit. I doubt Tyler would rat out his brother, but if you want to try, you can. However, no matter the result, you and your husband need at least a serious amount of couples counseling if you want to stay with him. That's a decision only you can make, though I personally wouldn't be able to stay with him. Op responds, saying couples counseling sounds like a great idea. It didn't even come to me. Thank you for your awesome feedback. I just sent Kai a text to call me tomorrow, so I won't put off telling him since I know I might chicken out. Wiggle Butt Biscuit says, wow, your husband sucks. I know in that moment I'd have been feeling so glad I was with this wonderful goofy person and not with a slimy cheating jerk who just hit on me. Have Fusion Buffett with both of our spouses right nearby. You should absolutely contact Kai and ask Tyler to figure out if your husband is already cheating. It is reasonable, though he might not be honest. That'd also be pretty curious what Marie had to say. You could consider couples therapy, but I'm not sure your husband deserves it. Coco says, are you sure your husband is not lying? I'll talk to Marie first and immediately after, Kai. If it's true, you might call Kai, and it all ends up being a lie your husband told you. Maybe he hit on her and not the other way around. If this woman is as pretty as you say, why would she be marrying someone she doesn't care for? Also, she is 29, so she can find someone else. It doesn't make sense. And one more comment from Princess Crafty Pants, who says, if you are worried about him getting out ahead of the story, I'd contact Marie and ask her for her version of what happened at the lunch without telling her anything your husband said. My husband told me his version of what happened between you two at lunch, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell me your side because neither of you sound like angels right now. In that case, I'd let Kai know something happened and you're going to compare stories or let him know you need to talk to Marie first and then you'll call him back. Brother-in-law, I'd say talk to him, but also try to phrase the question in a way that doesn't automatically indicate what the answer should be. Do you remember which nights he left the house? Could be an option. I'm sorry legal stuff scares you and makes all of this less fun. Let me meet a few lawyers to see who you might like. Don't meet all of them. Leave husband some options. Someone you like who is well rated is there to handle the scary legal stuff for you and help you through it. So then OP came in with their final update, which came 2 days later. Before we go to the next update, please let me know if you want to read stories like these about cheating husbands. Ready to talk about it in comments section. So, update. Hey Reddit, first of all, I'd like to thank you so much for the overwhelming support and sweet messages. I honestly was not expecting this. A lot of you guys also took the time to message me, and I had a lot of great conversations with fellow Redditors. I'm honestly so flattered by how freaking sweet so many of you guys are. I wish I could have replied to every single one of your comments. I upvoted every one of them though. I think my post got deleted. Some of you ask for pictures of Lotion Man, yet I can't quite find the feature to upload photos on here. I will as soon as I can. A lot of you had some really interesting theories lol, and surprisingly most of them were somewhat right. Majority ruled that I should do all three. Confront Kai, Marie, husband, and Tyler, not necessarily in that order. And so I had to get smart with it, since a lot of you guys told me that any one of them could twist a story had they known there was outside influence. Before I begin, yes, the full story is wacky and honestly doesn't make that much sense. I'm honestly just piecing it together via context clues, and I do have some questions left unanswered. Plus, nobody who is relaying this story is in a good headspace, and to you, it might just seem like a ton of garbled nonsense. I'm just hoping it gets across since I know a lot of people wanted closure on this. When my husband came home, we had a conversation. He essentially told me the same story and said he was open to my suggestion of marriage counseling. I gave him a big hug and did the laundry. Usually, we split the laundry, but I had been giving him the cold shoulder, so I indirectly forgave him in his eyes. We haven't really set boundaries with our phones, we know each other's passwords and everything, but he would definitely get suspicious if I was just scrolling around on it. So instead, I agreed to meet up with Kai first. A lot of you guys were concerned that he would tell Marie and everything would implode, but Kai is a big gym nut. I've been wanting to go recently, so I said it as casually as possible, using it as an excuse. He agreed. The next morning, I met with Kai. I sat down with him and told him everything I know. Yes, I cried like a baby. Originally, Kai was rigid and tried to kindly poke holes in what I was saying with a few gotcha questions before he too broke down. Marie didn't tell him a word, which put a big red flag on his own. I then went to Marie with Kai. A few Redditors told me to be as discreet as possible, and so as a suggestion, I just blurted to her that I know everything. She played dumb at first and then eventually broke. You all were right, Marie trying to settle her crush was a bad story. My husband was the one who approached her. She told me that he asked her if, before she sealed it with Kai, she wanted to have a night with him and another woman. Here's the kicker. Marie said yes, but wait. I hate to say it, but that's not all. Apparently, Marie has been cheating on Kai for a while with men and women, and my husband has also been cheating frequently. They covered for each other and occasionally met up. At the last moment, she declined because she wanted to be loyal to Kai. Now they were engaged, as if she wasn't cheating for the majority of the relationship, and my husband got all pissed off for a while, before saying he's just locked in his apartment. Now cue me showing him Lotion Man, he snaps and gets out of there. Kai and Marie are both arguing in tears and red at the face. I told them sorry I butted into their relationship and that I handle my husband myself. I found Tyler before the sunset. He told me his brother stopped by, but only around 11 p.m. He left at around 8. Tyler told me that he was angry and didn't tell him anything. I then tell him some context, just the lotion man, and he says that maybe he was driving around for a while. It doesn't sound like my husband to driver's relief, but I'm willing to look into it. Since the future was already looking pretty bleak, I went home. I googled something on my husband's phone. Instead, I was just checking if any of them had contacted him. Nothing, thankfully. I would have gone into more depth, but that would have to wait. Instead, I tried to keep him busy for the duration of the day. Remember how he said he sleeps really early? Well, that worked in my favor. I took his phone that night while he was snoring his ass off. I ran into a million dead ends. I knew I was missing something, but I couldn't find it. I finally opened his hidden photos. Kaboom. The story exploded to pieces. What did I find? Nudes, nudes, and more nudes, and even more nudes, all of one girl, not me, shocker, but not Marie either. I don't recognize her. Let's call her Allison. Considering Allison was my second grade best friend who was actually a snake, they're not the same person, just so I can call her something when I refer to her in the story, because I didn't actually know her name. She's absolutely gorgeous, red hair, hergless figure, you name it. I'm obviously broken. I traced her back to a contact. I feel sick. There it is, an affair. He'd been contacting her since February, days before I surprised him with a Valentine's thing that I had been using up my paychecks for and thinking I was the luckiest woman alive. It sucks. I can't even read more, but I tough through it. Then I hit it. November 3rd, 2 days after the last nude, she's pissed off. She found out he was married all along. She was in love with him. I feel bad for her, but she didn't even bother trying to contact me out of love. A while ago, hubby had a genius idea. He told Allison he'd bring his wife over in a hotel to show that his wife doesn't care about the affair. Sound familiar, so I assume that when Marie cancelled, there was nothing he could do. He became whiny and begged her to come. He told Allison that there was an inconvenience and they'd meet up another day. Then the lotion man got pissed off at me and left. I don't know what he did after that, but whatever it was, he wasn't with either of them. Then he just went to Tyler's place, slept it off, and came back afterwards. I'll spare you the details, but I couldn't even pretend to like him anymore after I found that out. I brought Kai and Marie over the next morning. He started blubbering and tried to deny it all before eventually admitting he was into redeeds. Marie is actually strawberry blonde, Allison is very ginger, and it was the one desire of his I couldn't fulfill. Even I could see past his saying that he loved only me, that being with Allison and Marie only made him love me more. I just said forget it and packed my stuff. He got more desperate, but even I, the girl who was honestly infatuated with him, knew it was over. Technically he owns the apartment, so I had to leave. Now I'm staying with Kai. He's as hurt as I am. I feel vain too, his wife was his world. We were hugging and crying for a while, ranting about God knows what, just trying to get ourselves together. To be honest, we tried to lighten the mood by making lunch, and it was really nice. He's a wonderful cook. I showed him the other 2 posts, and he got a kick out of some of your comments. As far as I know, my soon-to-be ex-husband is with Marie for now. I don't care about either of them, and honestly, it's kind of therapeutic just having some kind of closure and not walking on eggshells like I have been for the past few days. Kai and I are going to go to the gym tomorrow to do some relaxing yoga and hopefully figure out what to do next. We've both taken off from work. I'm sorting out my finances and hopefully I should get the ball rolling to finally legally split from my husband and be able to call him my ex. Still so frazzled. I have at least a half a dozen pictures of him on my desk and our wedding picture is on my lock screen on pretty much all of my devices. I know my students will notice his sudden disappearance from my life and I have to tell them that the guy I had been raving about for the past forever is divorcing me. I have to tell all my family and friends. Kai is my rock in this whole thing and will eventually have to part ways, which hurts because he's honestly my #1 support system in all of this. Living arrangements, actual divorce costs, law stuff, yuck. Therapy. I still have a lot to go through. I can't believe I thought the relationship was perfect. It's really therapeutic just to write this all down, but read it. Thank you so much. I've already talked about how much support I received, but honestly, some of your guys' honesty and compliments have, for the lack of better emphasis, honestly saved my life. I would have been with cheating scum, and Kai would have been too. This place is so awesome, and there's so much to be seen here, so many nice people checking on me and wanting to keep up with my story. I'll be coming back for more advice someday, though. Just know I've seen all, yes, all of your sweet words, and I continue lurking around for a long time, but this should be my final update for now. Thank you again, Renette, from me and Kai. Final comment. Wow, and all I can really say at the end of that is I'm so sorry you've had to go through all that to find out all of that, and Kai as well. Everything just kept getting worse and worse the more I read, and I'm glad that Opie was able to step back at the very end there and say that they were much better off out of this. The alternative is staying with someone who's going to continue to cheat on you, but the real hero of the day has got to be Lotion Man. Writing, I look forward to seeing a picture of him one day, but now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I thank you for watching, drop a like and subscribe our channel. I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.